Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to participants and all the speakers for the Think Global, Act Local Theme 5 Lean and Theme 6 Strategy. We have a very good lineup of speakers today. To introduce our first speaker, he is Mr. Vishal Barnabas. He's the Vice President of Consumer and Manufacturing Business. So he's come here to speak with us with regards to lean. To tell a little bit about Mr. Vishal, he's had over 24 years of experience in operations management, lean management, project and change management, warehouse management, forging technology, contract negotiations, etc. Mr. Vishal has worked with companies like Bharat Forge Limited, Amforge Industries, Uniport Logistics, Vijay Logistics, and TVS Logistics. And Mr. Vishal has been with Mahindra Logistics for the past 6 years. Mr. Vishal, could you please? I would like to welcome you for Think Global, Act Local. Thank you for taking our invite to come and speak with us on the topic lean.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always great to come and speak on behalf of CII, and it's a great honor and pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So you can share your screen and begin the presentation. We will have the question and answers towards the end. If the participants would like to ask questions towards the end, they can come and join this Zoom link. They'll ask the questions and then leave.
Sure. Just give me a minute.
No issue, sir.
Just let me know once my screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible. The stage is all yours now. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you on a lovely Saturday morning. It was quite exciting and interesting when I saw the list. There are a lot of people who I know and a lot of our honorable customers on this group. So it is a special honor that I'm able to talk to you all and share my personal experience over the last 30 years and my personal learnings throughout this period in the field of lean. As we know, the word is only 4 letters. However, lean is such a vast subject. And when I was told that we need to talk about lean and we have 45 minutes to speak, I was a little intrigued as to how we can cover a subject with the esteemed people on the call, and what is it that I can share. So I'm going to try my best to bring out something that's very important on the lean journey. And we are basically going to try and talk a little more about what is the foundation that is required in any process or organization or any business to be able to embark on the lean journey. Because if you don't have the right foundation, all the other tools and techniques that we always hear and learn about in lean may not give the same impact that we anticipate and expect. So I'm just dividing this entire program into 3 buckets. I'll talk a little bit about ourselves, probably just 3 to 4 minutes. I've got about 4 or 5 slides. I'm going to talk a little bit very briefly about the history of lean. And then I'm going to bring in a topic called a standard work. And this is the basis and the fundamental and the foundation of having a good lean journey. So with that, I'm sure I'm audible and my screen is visible. So I don't know how to get responses, but this is what COVID taught us.
Yes, sir. I'm here to support you on that.
Thank you very much.
The participants are in another link. They'll be listening to you from a higher link.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much. So I'm going to talk very briefly about Mahindra Logistics, the company I come from, and a little bit about us. We obviously are a part of the esteemed Mahindra Group, and we follow what we call as our RISE principle, and that's the purpose that we all strive to within all the group companies. is to rise for good. And the purpose very clearly has three very strong pillars, and they are rise for a more equal world, rise to be future ready, and rise to create value. Coming to Mahindra Logistics, we all know we are a leading integrated supply chain and mobility solutions provider with the purpose of accelerating commerce and empowering communities to rise. We have a vision to rise to be a 10,000 crore logistics service provider by 2026. We believe we'll do that by delivering exceptional customer experience through differentiated technology-enabled solutions. The three core areas that we offer and work in, and for the entire spectrum of industries that we work with, is our core 3PL integrated solutions for all the segments: consumer, manufacturing, pharma, e-commerce, automotive, manufacturing, and so on and so forth. The other thing is where we offer high level of network transport solutions. And lastly, our mobility service business, where we have brands of like Alight and Meru. We currently have over 19.1 million square feet of warehousing spaces under our management, 4.3 million square feet of A-grade state-of-the-art and large format multi-client warehousing spaces across the country, and over 2 million square feet transshipment and express hub spaces. We work with over 500 esteemed clients. Within our express business, we are one of the largest players and service in over and above 19,000 pin codes in the country and deploy around 15,000 vehicles. We operate in 40 plus in-plant and stores and line feed kind of operating locations. And we have over 50 freight forwarding global lanes. These are the various brands that we have under our banner. The important thing that we like to pledge and we are extremely focused on is to be carbon neutral by 2040. Most of our large format multi-user facilities are now solar powered with enough EV charging stations and approach to be IGBC LEED certified green buildings. We are aligned to science-based target initiatives, that's the SBTi on climate actions. And we have one of the largest fleet of EVs for last mile delivery, and therefore working very hard on the electrical ecosystem. We have over 1,000 plus EVs and 2,500 plus tons of CO2 emissions that are reduced, 13 million clean kilometers covered, 70 plus charging hubs, and 1,000 plus pin codes served with these EVs that we have under the brand called EDEL. I just mentioned we have some extremely advanced and large format, high-end warehousing facilities. We have about 4.3 million square feet of multi-client space across India and across another 1.8 million, which is currently under construction as we talk. Right, so with that, I wanted to wind that up quickly and come to the subject that we all are wanting to talk about and hear. It is my experience and journey in this field that I'm going to share with you. Not necessarily I'm the best or the expert in the field of lean, but I have had some phenomenal results by using various tools, techniques, and following the lean principles and learning from the people who actually developed lean. So the history tells us that there are luminaries such as Toyota, Ford, Taiichi Ohno, Taylor, and many others. So this is one of my most wordy slides. No other slide has so much written material after this, but it is important for us to know a little bit about the key people and what they contributed to the trigger of lean. As early as 1890, Frederick Taylor, who brought in the concepts of standard work, time studies, motion studies, and efficiencies in work methods. Followed immediately was Henry Ford. We all know Henry Ford pioneered the famous manufacturing strategy. And that's where he made his mark in the history of lean. And that brings us to Sakichi Toyoda, That's where the entire revolution in the field of lean and I focus on identifying waste and removal of waste began. So Sakichi Toyoda established the Toyota Spinning Weaving Company as early as 1918. And he was one of the initial contributors to what we all today follow and read and learn from, which is called as TPS or the Toyota Production System. And basically, the entire system principally focuses on what we call as elimination of waste. Kichiro Toyota is actually the son of Sakichi Toyoda, and he was a very important figure in the history of lean. We all remember him as the founder or the second president of Toyota Motor Corporation. And with that, it brings to the most important person and somebody who I really respect, I've read a lot about, is Taiichi Ono. Taiichi Ono's biggest achievement was when he managed to integrate the just-in-time system with the Jidoka system. And he's actually the true architect of today's Toyota production system. Therefore, Toyota, everybody knows and heard, or we've all read somewhere, right? Toyota is the leading lean exemplar in the world. They stand as the strongest proof of the power of the lean enterprise. And that's where most of the learnings came from and the best practices came in, and everything started culminating around that. Toyota has proven over and over that the principles of lean and the various principles of eliminating waste and is the most key to having a very, very lean business. With that, like I said, we can't focus on all the key, but this is something that appeals to me because this is an area where we normally don't give so much focus. We just normally start looking at the various tools, techniques of lean and try to apply them. However, standard work is one of the most fundamental principles of the Toyota production system and lean manufacturing. And therefore, I thought we should dwell upon and understand what exactly is standard work, right? So standard work basically defined as using the best that you know today, but which is to be improved tomorrow. And these are the words of Taiichi Ono. There are many different ways to carry out a process. You'll probably need to try out several methods, test yourself, and then keep changing every time until you find a process or a method that best suits your environment, your conditions, and gives you the results that you're looking for. Once you identify this method, that's the most efficient method, and that is the baseline which we call as standard work. Going forward, basically you document this method so that it is repeatable and reliable for everyone to use, and that becomes the new baseline to base yourself, create opportunities for improvement through identification of waste. So this is just a thought. If in your area of work, you are struggling with consistency of operation, effective problem solving, or creating a culture of continual improvement, part of the problem could be inadequate or inappropriate use of standard work. So what is standard work? So if you look at the first bar, this, if we say, is the time resource required for the process to execute one cycle. Whenever we introduce a new process, you will see a huge variation that always starts off. And as teams and good leaders and start understanding standard work, they focus on reducing variation. And once the variation is reduced, you have a more stable and a reliable process. There are many tools. There is the Ono circles, which is something we'll talk about towards the end. There are advanced tools like Six Sigma and other problem-solving tools and creative problem-solving tools, which enable us to focus on reducing variation. And once variation is reduced, we actually have what we call as a stable operation, which is the baseline to look at an improvement. Once you have a stable operation, you carry out an entire activity, a quality circle event, or something that you identify wastes, you put an action plan to reduce waste. What ends up happening is either the cycle time goes down or you optimize on resource. The very common word that we use today is basically improve productivity. But As soon as we do a change in process, you will see again there happens to be a very high variation. And therefore, it again brings in the journey of using critical problem solving tools, identifying waste, and normalizing the operation. This step of continuously doing this over and over and over again is what we call its continuous improvement. Once again, as team leaders understand standard work, you will see the variation reduce. Now, this entire cycle is an infinite loop that organizations need to embark on. This is exactly what is being extremely stressed in any amount of books you read on Toyota production system or lean, and everything talks about continuous improvement, which is an infinite cycle. So here we go. This is exactly what Taiichi Ono says. Without a standard, there can be no improvement. And therefore, what I said in the beginning, the basis, the big foundation for everything that we do in the field of lean or continuous improvement begins with a standard. So Taiichi Ono is actually known as the father of the Toyota production system. And therefore, there are a lot of books. I would urge all of you to reach out and read. At the end, I will introduce you to 3 books which have impacted me and helped me to understand this much better. So coming back to a little bit of detail. So what exactly is standard work, or what is the standard work model that you see on a screen today? I'm going to talk a bit about all of these stages, but as in a step, this is the standard work model. Everything begins with a process. Then everything needs, any process that we have, we need to understand what is the takt time. To execute any process, we need to have a layout, right? And then we need to also have a work sequence as to what is the next step to your preceding activity. Once we have identified a standard process and we have tried out the work sequence on the layout multiple times and arrived at the best method that you can see today, is when we get to the next step of documenting it, like I said in the beginning. And that document is a very strong document called as standard operating procedure. Once you have this entire model in place and an SOP in place, the most important step that we all miss out, or we normally get excited that we've got a standard process going on, everything running smooth. However, sustaining this is the most critical step, right? So what exactly is a process, right? A process has got to be repeatable. You must define a process that can be done by anybody, because there are multiple people, multiple shifts that we may operate in, phases change, and therefore it has to be repeatable. The process needs to be reliable, and it needs to be capable to deliver to the customer's demand or the end product that, or the end outcome that we want out of this process. There are many ways to manage, understand the process by carrying out process mapping, process trials. We have process capacity tables that we design that involves load leveling, work balancing. We're not going to get into all that detail. But the constructive standard work model always begins with a process which needs to be repeatable, reliable, and capable. Next comes the takt time. So what is takt time? Takt time is very simply, if I define it, is the ability to carry out a day's task in a day. Now, if you have a day, a shift of say 8.5 hours, and if you remove all the time that is required for breaks, we normally say we have in hand about 450 minutes. And if your demand is to deliver whatever product that you are expected in a shift, let's say 1,000 pieces of whatever we have to deliver within 450 minutes. So 450 divided by the number of pieces that need to pass through will give you the result as a takt time. Now, let's also be very conscious that takt time cannot be a cycle time. It is very possible that the takt time required to deliver the day's load, for example, is say 60 seconds. However, when you take a stopwatch and run through the entire process and try it out, you may realize that you require 180 seconds to carry out this process. And that is how manual calculation is done, is when you divide cycle time by takt time. So if you divide 180 by say 60, you will result in three resources required to actually execute the day's job load in a day. There are many ways to do layouts. There are various stages. There is a standard work layout which looks at ergonomics, single piece flow, creating a pull in the system, and all of those. That result in a layout which makes it convenient to work and a productive work environment. And this could be the step today. But every time we go back, and when I talk about the owner circles in the end, you will see that carrying out this activity of continual improvement may result in minor changes in layout every time to improve the productivity. So while the takt time remains same, if you manage to reduce a cycle time from 180 seconds to 170 seconds, you are basically improving the productivity and therefore, as a result, making your product more effective financially, cost-wise in the marketplace, right? So I'm going to take you through a little bit of a detail of what a process is and how it starts. A process always has a start and end defined by two limits. The input is the customer who has a need, and the output basically has to be customer who has a need that has been met. So if there is a requirement to produce a particular part, that is the need. Once the entire process is completed and the part has been produced and delivered, is the output. And there is a chain of activities that will go through between the input and the output. And these are the various steps that are required to be defined, tried out, implemented, and executed. And as we go forward, what is continuous improvement is continuously asking the question, why? Do we really need step 3? Can we eliminate step 3 and make the entire process? And that is identifying what we term as value-added or non-value-added process activities. There are many non-value-added activities we do due to various constraints that exist. And the identification of those constraints and the ability to brainstorm opportunities, options, use of technology, use of various things to eliminate those constraints is continuous improvement. So I just spoke about takt time a bit in the earlier. It is the rate at the marketplace or to know what your customer wants, right? It's a calculation that is very important because you can base your entire planning on takt. It is always important to have a clear visibility of what is the customer's demand and being focused on that demand as the prime to make the rest of your process work. You are not designing a process based on your preferences. You are designing a process to meet the customer's need. And therefore, to know his need properly, it's very important for us to be aware of what is the takt time. Now, this takt time may change with the customer's market scenario. If the volumes go up, then and the available time continues to remain the same, if we still want to deliver in one shift, something has to change to be able to do that. Wishful thinking or expecting that people will now start running faster to make that happen is not the right approach. The only way to do it is sit down, get to the drawing board, understand that the load has gone up from 1,000 pieces to 1,200 pieces. Therefore, my takt time has gone down from 60 seconds to 50 seconds. And hence, is my resource capable? Is my process capable? If not, what is the tweak that I need to do to make sure that the day's job is completed in the day? What is work sequence? The word is self-explanatory, right? The order in which activities should be carried out to complete the given task. The various steps that I showed you in the process. The activities could include walking, handling. I come from logistics, so I'm trying to use a logistics terminology here. It's binning or picking or packing. All of these are various steps. What needs to be done first and what needs to be done second is what defines the sequence of the work. And the more appropriate that you're able to define the sequence and not backtrack in your process, it will determine the productivity, quality, and safety of the process. So what exactly do we do when we want to set up a standard work layout, right? So there is always a shop floor layout. You need to get the layout of your area and draw lines to represent the flow of parts or people. The layout is already existing. There is what we need to see is what is the flow? What is the flow of material? What is the flow of people? We do various, now there are various tools which we are not going to elaborate here uh, due to the availability of time. So there is string diagrams that we do. We measure the movement. We can put pedometers on people to understand the number of steps they do. And these are all areas of improvement. If you want to improve your people's effectivity, you need to reduce the actions that they take so that their fatigue will go down and therefore their output will be better quality, better productivity. Once we have drawn these lines on the layout of the process flow, we need to identify what part of a process cannot be moved. There are definitely large machines or buildings in the entire VSM that we draw or the value stream that we draw. And then these are not movable. So this is definitely things and constraints which we have to work around and identify as unchangeable. Once you know what you can't move, you will also know what are the things that you can change. And therefore, rearranging your process to improve the flow or reduce motion, right, is the final outcome to achieve at a standard work layout. Now, once you have done this, is this the ultimate? Is this the final? This is going to give you that step change in your resource and time required, which I showed you a couple of slides ago. But also it is going to create higher variation. And therefore, again, going back and following standard work will reduce the variation and therefore enable you to have the next baseline to base your next step improvement. Once you have your work sequence and your layouts ready, it is very, very important to document this change. Therefore, I personally believe that SOPs are not permanent. SOPs are not to be written once for lifetime, right? Every small change that you do, the first thing you need to go back is to review your SOPs. The SOPs have to identify all the detailed pitfalls or failures that may occur in the event of following the process. And therefore, you have to define and show within the process how do we deal with these pitfalls. We have to have correct levels of details to ensure controls. So we need to define the measures, what exactly is required to control a particular process step, what are the do's, what are the don'ts, and define that in data. An SOP must be an accurate reflection of the process. There are many times SOPs are written in offices by teams who are not the ones who actually are on the floor using it. But it's very important that it should not be an idealized view. It should not be a copy paste of some other process. It has to be an accurate reflection of that particular process that we are defining the SOP for. And like I said, ideally, it should be written by the process owner, not by external people, because the process owner is the one who has made the change. When he writes an SOP, he takes ownership towards that SOP. And the last, not least, is it should be written while doing the job. It cannot be written in isolation. So that sums up what I spoke about, just to go back to the standard work model and the importance. This is basically what is going to create a foundation for the entire operation or the process that we have. The importance of understanding that we define a process as it is. And in order to define that process, it's very important that we walk the process, we review it a couple of times, and then draw it on a brown paper or a small paper before we actually put it onto digital, because there could be changes that we want to do. Takt time, just to summarize, is one of the key parameters in a standard work model. Knowing your customer demand, extremely important, and calculating that requirement in available time is very important. Understanding takt time well can save a lot of situations that we all face in today's life and end up putting teams on overtime, not able to achieve what was set out for the day. Layouts need to be reviewed periodically as frequently as possible. There are places where the layout could be reviewed as frequently as a quarter. Everybody can huddle around the table, put the layout, draw the lines for the part flow, draw the lines for the people flow. Every small step is going to take you closer to improving your productivity. Understanding the work sequence very clearly, what's first, what's second, no backtracking is important. And finally, once you have this process, it's important to capture the current best method that we have. And that's where it, and the last thing which I haven't spoken about is sustain. To ensure whatever has been written on this SOP and the entire standard work model that we put in place, it is very important to put various audits or what we call as workplace audits. We normally follow a process of setting up layered process audits. A layered process audits has different stages of audit requirements. For example, the shift in charge should audit his process every day, and his audit questionnaire, 80% should consist of tasks and maybe 20% questions around strategic. The area manager should audit the entire process once in a week so that he is also on top of it. When we design his audit questionnaire, it's important to give him a lot more questions to think about the week ahead and not just the task in hand, which is being managed by the shift in charge. Therefore, let's say 60% of his questions could be tasks and 40% of them could be forward thinking. The manager needs to also audit in a similar manner once in a month. Now, these layered process audits help everything to sustain. If the shift in charge has missed something in his process, it should be caught in an audit within a week's time. Now, if the the manager also continues to miss, the next level should catch it in the next frequency. And therefore, this helps create standard work on the floor. This helps sustain the improvements that we've taken. Now, coming to the next step, once we have a standard work in place, this is one tool, which is a very, very simple tool, very, very easy to do, which is normally ignored because there are very, very high-end, high-tech ways of doing things, more techniques in the use. But one of the most effective ways of creating improvement quickly, as per Taichi Ono, is what we call as the owner circles. So what is the owner circles? Solve problems and improve processes by going to the source and personally observing and verifying. Watch and think for yourself. Then we question and analyze and evaluate. For example, we all know this big name, Sherlock Holmes, one of the world's most reputed crime detectives or somebody who's defined. So do we think that Sherlock Holmes solved mysteries sitting in his swanky office? He would not be able to find the evidences. He would not be able to identify what has happened. You have to spend time at the coalface. And that is what I keep urging our leadership and our managers, that everything is at the Gemba. You need to get to the floor, observe, see, identify. Observation is one of the most important skills, patiently done with a structured set of questions in mind, will evolve answers for improvement. Now, the way to do it is to go on the floor and try to see what you can improve. Or the other way that Taichi Ono talks about is you go there on the floor, identify a place to stand and look for what we call as waste. It's a human tendency. It's easy to identify what is a waste, right? So there are 7 wastes that are defined by Taichi Ono, and everything that is there in a process is always, one of these 7 wastes. That's transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, over processing, over production, and defects. And a very simple way to remember this is if you put this in the sequence, and the word is Tim Woods. So Tim Wood is the 7 wastes that we talk about. So just to understand what are these 7 wastes. So one of the most important waste is moving, unnecessarily transportation of product. When a product moves from point A to point B, the first question is this required? If yes, then what is the distance it is moving? If it is moving, say, 10 meters, is it 10 meters or can we make it 5 meters? Can we make it 2 meters? Identifying a transportation waste in every process step and eliminating a little bit of it, if not everything, will result in a massive improvement. There is a belief where we say that inventory is a waste, holding of unnecessary stocks. This is actually anti-logistics. In that case, the entire concept of what we call a warehouse is actually a waste where we hold stock. And therefore, most of the times within the logistic environment or in the production environment, there is a huge focus on how can we make our inventory lean? How can we reduce the carrying inventory that we have? Because basically inventory is defined as a waste. The other waste that we have is motion, action of people or equipment that do not add value to the product. Many times we are moving from one box to the other box, like the caption I put. Is this required? Are we asking ourselves this question? Why are we doing this? Is there a better way to do it? Is there a way to avoid this step in totality? Right? The next waste is waiting. Now, very often you will see pile up of material before a particular process step. And that pile up happens because of the bottlenecks. We see that in traffic conditions on the roads. There are places and junctions where you suddenly see a lot of traffic. And that is because there is a bottleneck. So can we look for what is the bottleneck? Is there a way to increase the scope for the flow? Is there something we can do to balance out the activity? Is the bottleneck coming on account of inadequate resource at that stage? These are the questions that you need to stand there, focus and look for, and which will result in identifying those bottlenecks and then sitting with the team together and brainstorming as to what are the options we have, what improvements can we do. The other one is overproduction, producing more than that is required to meet the actual need or faster than the necessary pace, right? The TPS or the Toyota Production System or the lean manufacturing all talk about a drumbeat or a takt time that should be based on the customer's demand. Going fast or going slow are both problems. Going fast, you're going to result up in pile up of ready product. And again, it is going to be inventory that is a waste. And therefore, are we overproducing? Are we doing things that are not necessary? The most common waste that I have identified many times is overprocessing. We need to look at every step and are we working beyond what is needed to satisfy the customer? Many times we do go overboard. For example, the screw that is packed in a small thing and then a small box and the box goes in another box and this box goes is an example. What we need to see is within this, are there any unnecessary steps that we can eliminate? And the last one is the most critical one. When we produce a defect, the entire process chain for producing that defect is a waste. Therefore, you have to go all over again and produce one additional part to cover up the defect part. And hence measuring defects and trying to find ways and identifying root causes of where is this defect coming from and what are the steps that are required and identifying interventions that can resolve these defects is very important. And therefore, the way I mentioned, Taichi Ono mentions that going to the coal face and standing there and expose, what we need to do is stand, observe, and identify these 7 ways within the small process area. It's not about taking an entire value stream and observing. It's about going on the floor, looking at a small part of the process and observing This is going to expose problems and inspire improvements. There is absolutely no substitute for direct observation. So what the owner circles basically means is to mark a place on the floor where you want to stand, give enough time, identify a position on the shop floor which gives you the greatest view of the area or the process, take a sheet in a hand with the 7 wastes written on it, and try to observe and identify as many times you can see one of the 7 waste happening. And then the most important thing is ask the question why, right? Once you ask the question why at every stage that we require, this will get you to the root cause. Going forward from the root cause is the next step, is where we sit down as a team, identify options, identify things that can be done. The most important thing that I personally believe, the best ideas come from the team on the ground, the people who work the process. They are the ones who do it day in and day out. And taking them into consideration and discussing with them has always resulted in phenomenal improvements. Most of the times we try to ignore them and try to solve these problems in office, which is not the way it works. It always is on the shop floor. And therefore, going to the coal face, standing there and looking at the entire process in detail to identify one of these 7 ways is the key to improving productivity. Now, this is an exercise that we should be doing at a very, very regular frequency, moving from one stage to the other stage. All team leaders should be given the task of carrying out this activity within their areas of operation at a regular frequency, identifying wastes, asking this question why at every stage, sitting with the teams and discussing these observations and wastes to identify what is the best way that we can eliminate one of them. Taking and engaging the entire team creates a huge sense of ownership within them to solve. And this is the culture that we imbibe of continual improvement that will start off and trigger a chain of improvements. So with that, I think owing to the time, this is what the message that I had. We need to focus and understand that before we embark on the journey of lean and get sophisticated, complicated tools, there is a very simple thing that we all miss out and is very, very important. Is to create improvement, you need a foundation or a baseline. And the fundamentals of this foundation is having a standard work model in place. And it is easy to understand, as most of the largest and significant improvements come from the floor, come from the ground teams. And therefore, keeping it simple rather than complicating with really high-end tools will give you larger impact than what you think we can get. There are tools which are high-end, very, drawing a VSM and then sitting down and identifying all this is also important. But the basis, when you want to start the journey on lean, is to understand standard work and therefore implement the standard work and then look at one of the fundamental basic tools, which actually has been the basis of Toyota's transformation in the world from a major problem that they had to one of the world's largest automobile manufacturers. There are companies across the globe and industries across the globe who have embraced these basic principles to achieve exceptional results. With that, I think, like I said, this is the message I had for the team. And I am really hopeful that there is some area that I could inspire some confidence in how we should look at standard work model. Like I had said, these are the 3 books that I want to definitely recommend to all of you. The one that I personally believe should be the first book that we all read, and it is written beautifully by James Womack, and that's The Machine That Changed the World. This is the story of lean production, the Toyota's secret weapon to the global car wars that revolutionized the world industry. He has very beautifully put this sentence. And this book is extremely instrumental in really deeply understanding the fundamentals of lean. So I urge all of you to pick up these books and get more in detail. So with that, John, I think I would really like to see if there are any questions and better interaction, and I can take that forward.
Thank you, Mr. Vishal, for this wonderful speech. For the participants, if anybody would like to ask questions on the presentation and Mr. Vishal's speech, you can join the Zoom call now. I'll give you a 1 minute window so that you can come. We have the next speaker already lined up to speak. With that, sir, I have a personal question with Mahindra Logistics and you being there. What are some of the lean examples that you have adopted at Mahindra Logistics?
So basically, if you see, logistics is an evolving industry. And if I go back about 5 years to 10 years prior, the concept of logistics was managing godowns, which is now called as warehouses, rightly so.
Yeah.
There used to be no such focus that there is a process, right? At Mahindra Logistics, what we believe is through the Mahindra way, the TMW process, that we started introducing the importance of standard work model in all our warehousing environments and all the process we follow. We have embarked on a strong journey of getting people's competency really high up on the field of understanding process, understanding how, as a result, we have been able to consistently optimize operations for our clients. There are customers on this call that I know. We have been having long-term relations with them as we have been able to partner them in their optimization journey. The market is challenging. We always keep focus as customer. Understanding the customer needs is very important. Not just understanding their needs from our perspective, but to understand, go one step behind and look at the customer's customer. And the most important thing to stay competitive in today's world is to consistently improve productivity. So we have embedded the thread of continuous improvement in the complete canvas of Mahindra Logistics as a standard process. We ensure that all our operations are based on carrying out improvements on their process on a continual basis. We have various programs that encourage this kind of an environment. We have a strong audit mechanism, which I personally believe is one of the keys to sustaining. We have layered process audits everywhere. All are checked at various levels, and there are senior levels. For example, even when I visit any of my sites personally, I do pick up the most senior audit sheet and then walk. Going for a walk in the park is not the answer. And the other thing that I personally believe that in our industry, it's extremely diverse in form of geography. It's all over the country that we are existing. And hence, the very simple and tempting thing is to avoid going to shop floors. Therefore, we have KRAs of teams on the number of frequency that they need to make to the shop floor. I personally believe, and we really strongly believe, that going to the coal face is where you see the problem.
With that, I haven't seen, I think some of the participants have come and then gone. I think they are having some issues with joining the Zoom call. With time constraints, thank you, Mr. Vishal, for joining us, for taking the invitation to come and speak with us. For all our participants, I'm sure they have received a lot of insights from you. Thank you for the book recommendations as well. I think I will read The Machine That Changed the World for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure and honor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, sir.